Good evening, my lovely students. It's come to my attention that there are still several students who are very confused about aspects of this presentation. So I will once again go over all the elements of it using my example presentation as a guide. Hopefully that will clear up any confusion that you may still have about what's required. Okay, you need 6 slides. The first slide is your cover slide. The second slide is where you establish your argument. The next 3 slides after that will have some sort of evidence that you'll use to support your argument that's on slide 2. You will use the resources that you've gathered as your evidence to support your argument on slide 2. And then you'll have a works cited slide so that you give credit to all the resources that you've gotten your evidence from. So let's look at some example slides. This is how your main argument slide could look. You can put all the text on the slide because you're not going to be writing a whole lot. You will be answering the question, should people in life or death situations be held accountable for their actions? You will then go on to provide some sort of explanation for why you've given this answer. This is some basic reasoning, using your own reasoning skills. This is your argument. This is your main argument. This is your claim that you have established. Everything else is meant to build upon and support this argument on this slide. So, my next slide, I use one of the unit text to support my argument that people should be held accountable for their actions in life or death situations. Notice when you look at the slide, there's not a lot of written information there. It's mostly image. There's a title, image, some bullet points. This is how your evidence slides should look. Most of your information needs to go down in the speaker notes, because if you were actually giving this presentation in person, you would not want a huge chunk of text on your slide. It would be difficult for your audience to look at it, read it, see it, and process it. It's important what you say. So the speaker notes are what's most important. However, you do want to have bullet points that sort of summarize all the things that you're going to talk about down there in the speaker notes. I've covered what makes a good person. I'm going to talk about what moral repair is, and I'm going to talk about how taking accountability can lead to making better choices in the future. Those are my main points. Now let's take a look at the speaker notes. Notice that I have introduced my text evidence. I don't just start using the text evidence. I talk about it first. I summarize the text evidence. I mention the author's last name and the essay that she wrote. This is an in-text citation, and it is very important to provide that. I need to know where you got your evidence from. It adds credibility to your argument. You also need to explain, how does all this information that you got support your main argument? Okay, the video. Now, I have chosen a video of Noam Chomsky. He is a very famous philosopher, linguist, and professor. I would consider him to be an expert on societal issues. I have chosen a 30-second clip that would play automatically. If I click play on this slide, it will play a 30-second clip that I've chosen talking about the topic of responsibility and how it's related to influence. Notice down in the speaker notes and in the bullet points, I mention his name. That's my in-text citation. I introduce the text evidence, the video evidence, and then I explain it. I then move on to make a counter argument. Now, your next one doesn't have to be a counter argument. It could just be one more argument toward your point. but you need to have a third piece of evidence either way. Now, I've chosen to use it as a counter argument. It seems like I'm arguing against my point that people should be held accountable, but then I make a rebuttal. You can look at the bullet points and you can see that I'm making an argument for the other side. And then you can also see my rebuttal. Down in the speaker notes, I give more details about these bullet points. Notice that I've mentioned the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. That's my in-text citation. It lets you know that's where I got my evidence from. That's the source I decided to use. Notice that I presented a counter argument. I used evidence from the VA's website to support the counter argument. Then I made a rebuttal, and I used the VA's website as part of my rebuttal as well. I introduced, presented the evidence, and explained the evidence and how it all ties back into my argument on slide 2. Finally, the works cited page. Please notice the formatting. There is an author for each and every entry. They are all in alphabetical order. They're all the same size font, same type of font, and that they have a hanging indent. Notice that there's other information as well, right? In the video, there's the date it was published, the name of the video, the publisher of the video, a link to the video. In the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs website, I've listed the VA as the author. I've given the name, the title of the web page, the title of the website, the date it was published, and a link to the page. I used Scribber to help me generate these works cited entries, and I encourage you to do so as well. I've given you a guide on how to do that. There are other resources available on my Canvas page to help get you through this and make sure that everything is formatted correctly. But if you still have any very specific questions that you have, please feel free to reach out to me and I will help you to the best of my ability. Good luck.